Good morning, New Brunswick, and welcome to the New Brunswick Today Show for Tuesday, October 4th. We're coming at you from our studio right here in downtown New Brunswick. We want to thank you for joining us on yet another cloudy day in the Hub City. We've got a great show for you. Our special guest is an intrepid reporter who's just 15 years old, New Brunswick Today's very own Mr. Carlos Ramirez. But first, the weather. Today, it's 62 degrees and cloudy in the Hub City. We've got high today is going to be 67, and the low tonight is expected to be about 50. Winds will be between 10 and 15 miles an hour. We've got a couple traffic advisories today, as usual. Somerset Street will be closed between Lewis Street and Harvey Street until 4 p.m., and Lewis Street is going to be reduced to a single lane between French and Somerset Streets. That's also till 4 p.m. And Wilcox Road, as usual, will be closed until 4 p.m. for that sewer project. Now, to all of you watching this broadcast live on our Facebook page, please do me a favor and share this video with your friends right now so they can join in. You can also comment on this video with your questions or feedback, as well as our Twitter account. It's at NB_today. And we'll get back to you. Now, later today, this show is also going to be available on our YouTube channel, as well as the NewBrunswickToday.com website. So thanks again for joining us. The really great thing about our show is we let you into our newsroom so you can find out what stories we're working on and what you can expect to see in the newspaper. So coming up later today, you'll see a report from Stephen Roca, our excellent sports reporter. He was at this weekend's NBHS Zebra football game, and we've got some of his photos to show you right now. In that game, Dylan Johnson scored 3 touchdowns as the Zebras overpowered Monroe Township High School 32-26. It was the Zebras' first win of 2016 and a much-needed boost for the team. So check back in just a little bit later today for that full recap on the New Brunswick Today website. The Zebras are going to be back in action at home against the Middletown North football team this Friday, October 7th. That's games at 7 p.m. at Memorial Stadium right here in New Brunswick on Joyce Kilmer Avenue. Now, in other news, Rutgers keeps changing its story about how it's handling a case where a student fell off of a new building that the school neglected to realize could easily be climbed by almost anyone. As we reported, the future Starbucks building on College Avenue has been modified to make it harder to mount after an allegedly drunk student was injured in a bad fall. Quote, "This building is constructed in a manner that would easily allow and may invite some individuals to climb on top of it," read an email that was reported in the student newspaper, the Daily Targum. Now, plywood boards were later affixed to the structure, which is located in the center of The Yard, a $92 million 14-story mixed-use building that's a joint venture of Rutgers and the New Brunswick Development Corporation, better known as DevCo. Now, that change came just days after the Targum exposed an incident where a student resident of the adjacent dormitory, that 14-story structure, fell from the smaller structure in the center and had to be hospitalized. But just what the incident means for the university and for the student involved is still unclear. After nearly 3 weeks of evasive maneuvers on the part of Rutgers Media Relations staff, we're still looking for answers. So, for instance, the university has given mixed signals about whether the student involved is going to be charged with a crime, and they've denied our requests for relevant police reports. So RUPD, the Rutgers University Police Department, apparently reopened a closed case after this newspaper, New Brunswick Today, pushed back against Rutgers' dismissive and contradictory answers given in response to our request. Now, the crime log that they have has actually been changed multiple times since then. According to the log at 2:10 a.m. on September 9th, 3 investigations began as the result of one single incident. That would be accident/injury, criminal mischief with damage, and defiant trespasser. Now, despite a legal requirement that certain information about ongoing criminal investigations be provided, quote, within 24 hours or as soon as practicable, the university still has not been able to provide an appropriate response. Here's a quote from the response. "With respect to your request for information required under the Section 3B of the Open Public Records Act statute, please be advised that the university is still reviewing the information responsive thereto and requires an extension until September 29th. That's what they wrote us first. Somebody in the Rutgers Office of Enterprise Risk Management. That email came on September 22nd. Now, that part of the law, Section 3B, is the one that requires agencies like RUPD to release certain information about ongoing criminal investigations. So we thought that confirmed that there was an ongoing criminal investigation. But just a few days later, we were led to believe otherwise by the same folks. So this is another message we received. Quote, please be advised that the incident is not a criminal investigation and therefore no 3B information exists, wrote Daniel Faltus, the university's custodian of records. Quote, furthermore, please disregard the initial letter you received from this office advising you that a document responsive to your request regarding the case was a criminal investigatory record, as there is no criminal investigation associated with this case. That information was provided to you in error. So, we double-checked RUPD's crime logs, which at the time still stated that the improper behavior, disorderly conduct matter was open/pending. The other two listings for the accident, injury, and the property damage were listed as closed. But New Brunswick Today took issue with this inconsistency. One document said that there was an open case. The other folks telling us there's not an open case. So we sent a follow-up message to Mr. Faltus, and he still hasn't responded to that message. But after we sent that message, the RUPD crime log was once again modified, with the property damage and improper behavior cases changed to a new disposition: criminal summons issued. So we're still waiting to hear the official story, and we have another open request pending, but stay tuned to NB Today for an article in the near future about the aftermath of that situation. You can also expect to read about some exciting news in the world of business and technology. The Philadelphia-based cable giant Comcast says that it hopes to launch a cell phone service by the middle of next year in New Jersey. NBT's business reporter Dave Schatz will have that story for you later today on our website. We're also going to have a story for you about the secretive process the New Brunswick Board of Education used to select its newest member, Diana Solis, and as well as another story about a $2 million settlement that New Brunswick school officials authorized in a disability discrimination case filed by a former school nurse. That case was in the middle of a trial right across the street from us. That trial was going very badly for the district when that settlement came down. The nurse, Rosa Martinez, who I believe we have a photo of, ultimately resigned from her job at Livingston School after failing to get the district to provide her with reasonable accommodations for her disability, a vision problem she had. And that was a decision, she testified, came directly from former Superintendent Richard Kaplan. At least that's what she was told. Now, speaking of controversy at the Board of Education, in just a bit we're going to have a live report from New Brunswick Today's Carlos Ramirez on the program. He broke the story about the struggles that some community members are now facing after the district cut back on the transportation services that it provides to students of New Brunswick Middle School. But first, we've got a quick clip we want to play you. The business administrator for the New Brunswick School District, Richard Janarone. We ran into him across the street. We asked him, one, what are you doing at the courthouse? Now we know the answer was that the district was being sued and about to pay $2 million to a former employee. But he didn't want to tell us that. And we also asked him about the busing issue, and he really didn't want to talk about that either. He kind of said he refused to talk about it, and he told us to just come to the board meeting. So we'll have more on that in just a bit. Here's us talking with Richard Janarone, some audio from that conversation. We'll be right back after this. Pardon me, Mr. Janarone, how are you?
Good, you?
Good, thanks. What brings you to the courthouse today?
No comment.
Okay. Maybe you can help me understand the stuff with the school buses. I know some of the parents are going to come out tonight. They're upset over the changes this year. Do you know what changes were made to the who gets offered bus service?
Yes, I'm in charge of it. I'll be there tonight. So.
Okay, so there were changes made?
Yeah, no comment, Charlie. I'm not looking to talk to you. You're recording everything. You sneak up on people in the middle of the street, and so I'm not looking to have a conversation with you. you look to talk to me, come to the board meeting. I'll be more than happy to answer anything.
All right, I'll see you there. And welcome back to the New Brunswick Today show. If you're checking out the newbrunswicktoday.com website, you can catch up on some of the things that happened over the past month. For instance, on September 17th, the Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein came to Rutgers in New Brunswick to speak to students about various political issues in today's world. Two of our great reporters, Chris Roberts and Whitney Derman, have that story. And Whitney even broadcast the event live on Facebook. Now, the All Marxist-Leninist Union, AMLU, student organization that advocates for a workers' revolution that would nationalize the means of production, hosted the Green Party nominee. The General Secretary of that organization, Don Corder, introduced Stein, saying that leftists must increase awareness of anti-capitalist candidates like Stein and, quote, build a popular front among the left. It marked the third time that Stein has visited the hub city in the past 2 years. She spoke at the state party's convention at Rutgers last summer. As we reported, Stein thanked the crowd for their political involvement on certain issues, bringing one of them up, the protests against former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice a couple years ago when Rutgers had invited her to be the commencement speaker. Now, Jill Stein's major platform point is called the Green New Deal, which she describes as a modern-day parallel to Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal, but with a greater focus on environment and clean energy. Stein, who is a medical doctor, said that she supports transitioning to clean energy because doing so will greatly reduce sickness caused by air pollution, and it would also make American-led wars in the Middle East, which she says are mostly motivated by oil, obsolete. Now, Stein was asked by a New Brunswick Today reporter how she thought the public might react to her speaking at an event hosted by a communist organization. And here's what she had to say, quote, "Well, as I understand it right now, socialism is far more popular than even so-called capitalism if you look at the polls." She said, "What I hear young people saying is that they're more worried about Wall Street coming and taking their stuff than they are about socialists taking their stuff." She said, however, she doesn't describe herself as a socialist. Quote, "In my view, I try to avoid the isms because I find they mean different things to different people." And the question really comes down to what policies you're talking about. Now, our business reporter, Dave Schatz, has got a great story about Wells Fargo and Company's chief executive, John Stumpf, and his testimony before a U.S. Senate committee on September the 20th, where he said he takes, quote, full responsibility for the unethical activity at his company. Wells Fargo is the third largest bank in the United States measured by holdings, and it's caught up in an embarrassing scandal over its employees opening some 2 billion fictitious accounts or unauthorized credit cards. Now, that CEO was asked to testify before the Senate Banking Committee after news of the unauthorized accounts and credit cards broke. The New York Times obtained and released a copy of his prepared apology. Now, although Wells Fargo reportedly knew of wrongdoing as early as 2011, it took until this year for credit customers who were incurred fees or other costs. Civil lawsuits have already been filed as the bank fights to save its long-term reputation, which is something really critical in banking. Now, just how deep the problems were at Wells Fargo and who should be held accountable for them is a question that Senate committee seeks to answer. Wells Fargo has already fired 5,300 employees over the past several years in response to that crisis. Changes in its retail banking business are slated for January 1st, when the bank will eliminate all product sales goals for its employees. Quote, "Our objective has always been and continues to be to meet our customers' financial needs and drive customer satisfaction," said Stumpf on September the 13th in a news release, quote, "We are eliminating product sales goals because we want to make certain our customers have full confidence that our retail bankers are always focused on the best interests of customers. I'm deeply sorry that we have not lived up to our values in this way." He said that the bank learned of the wrongdoings at the corporate level sometime around 2013, but before that it was being dealt with by a compliance unit. Now, Tyler Farnsworth has the story on NewBrunswickToday.com of the New Netherland Institute's 39th annual conference. It's about the New Netherlands, the Dutch settlement here in America. That conference was held on the campuses of Rutgers University and mainly at the New Brunswick Theological Seminary. Now, that organization is based in Albany, New York, and it's celebrated and drawn attention to America's Dutch roots. It was the first time that the event was held in New Jersey, which is the site of Pavonia, a key Dutch settlement early on in the province of New Netherland. Now, the event explored the Garden State's 17th century Dutch origins and featured 7 academic speakers from both the United States and the Netherlands, including Elizabeth Bradley, who's the author of Knickerbocker, the myth behind New York, a cultural history of New York's first mascot. The conference was called From Pavonia to the Garden State, New Jersey's Dutch Past, and it was a great success by all accounts, according to the NNI website, which also says that, quote, "Located between the Hudson and Delaware Rivers, New Jersey has often been neglected in favor of more dramatic developments to the east and west. However, as the site of Pavonia, an early patroonship with major agricultural potential, and as the geographic connection between New Amsterdam and the Delaware River settlements, the Garden State's 17th century origins well deserve our attention." We also have a story for you about a local woman with ties to New Brunswick and Manville who was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for her role in an out-of-state murder that took place back on August 24th, 2014. 29-year-old Andrea Beatty pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit robbery, conspiracy to distribute drugs, aiding and abetting a robbery, and aiding and abetting a murder, and she's now in federal jail in Brooklyn. That's the building you see here. Authorities said that 25-year-old Ryan Ennis was stabbed to death in a botched drug deal that took place at his residence in Ossining, New York. The murderer, 35-year-old Manville resident Anthony Greco, received a life sentence for the killing. He was sentenced by the same judge just 1 day earlier. Now, Beatty was accused of driving Greco and a third person to that apartment, fully aware that the plan was to rob the man who allegedly owed Greco money, according to published reports. The Home News Tribune's Mike Deek reported that, quote, "Authorities say she then drove to a rooming house in New Brunswick where Greco handed her $8,900 in cash, took a shower, and asked her where he could dispose of a garbage bag filled with the clothes that he had been wearing." Now, right now on the NewBrunswickToday.com website, our top story is the one we first brought you on this show, the city's water woes continuing into last weekend as thousands of residents were forced to boil their water before using it or risk their health. Check out that story and our entire series about the city's embattled water utility only on NewBrunswickToday.com. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to hand it over to Carlos Ramirez, who broke the story of New Brunswick removing courtesy busing for hundreds of middle school students. But first, as we reported, I want to show you the video from the board meeting where Carlos was and I was too. We witnessed dozens of parents coming out to speak out against that change. That's a change that the district said it made for financial reasons, and it said the officials said that they notified parents, that they sent a letter home, but none of the parents we spoke to got any letter. So one of the folks who got up there and spoke was a community leader we've had on the show before, a good friend, Teresa Vivar, and we just wanted to play that quick clip for you, and we'll be back with Carlos Ramirez after this.
Members of the board, Superintendent Johnson mentioned before that the school vision is to prepare, empower, and inspire lifelong learners and leaders. Let me know remind the mission, but it says clearly that are supposed to help students to develop or learn to innovate solutions to complex challenges. Also mentioned the importance of the entire community to create a nurturing environment that allows students to reach these goals. And I mention this because based on these words, I don't understand why it is so difficult for members of the board to comply with this commitment, or at least to act or do things that make us believe that we believe in our mission. Members of the board, we aspire to really be protectors of these children's education and therefore the protectors of your own future or our future. Because regardless of the ethnic background of the school population, all the generations depends on younger generations when the hard time of the time comes. We need to comply with the needs of these kids now in order to pursue a better future for all. It's your future, and you must raise it to vote as well as help others to do so. Minorities are no longer dying more, nor in New Jersey, nor in political states of the United States. We are getting numbers, but only when we raise it to vote, we will work together to find solutions, and more demands, we have a common voice, and everybody will hear us. Thank you. And I hope to present that you remind my name. I'm Teresa Ibarra. I'm the secretary director of the organization. And from last year, you never called me, you never reached me, so I understand the concept of community engagement. This body, the only thing that they want is that you call us and tell us no and make us feel part of the solution. Not let us know the last time that our kids have no transportation. Because you don't know how these kids are going. 60% of the population are single mothers. How do you expect them to find a solution at the last minute? We want to work with you, and I told you the last time, we want to work with your group. But if you continue thinking that we are not qualified or noble thinkers to give you ideas and to work together, to work on these problems, how do you expect us to respect you then? Or believe in these six things that you tell us right now is going to happen? Academic programs. We are a public school that is C-, okay? And I have programs that I'm seeing where only few students can go in. Writing and reading skills are a problem, only here for everyone. But we still have problems to present it. So how do you want to help us then? How do you want to believe that you want to help us if you don't even call us? Thank you.
I'm Carlos Ramirez, New Brunswick State reporter. As we reported on September, more than thousands of students attending New Brunswick public schools have been left out without busing after the board removed the courtesy busing this year. Now those students are facing inclement weather and with winter coming, raising safety concerns within the community. On Tuesday, September 22nd, the Board of Education meeting was held at the New Brunswick High School. The meeting was attended by dozens of parents as well as students and community members that are concerned with the NBPS. The issue of the transportation was brought to the board along with many other issues concerning the New Brunswick community members. For many years, the New Brunswick Public Schools has provided courtesy busing to students within less than 2 miles for their design elementary or middle school. But this year, the New Brunswick Public Schools said that they had to balance their budget in order to provide 500 students from Paul Robinson School with transportation to the swing space. As a result, courtesy transportation of more than 400 students in need was cut off. Only students living more than 2 miles away from the school and students that attend after-school programs will have the transportation services. The school district also said that anyone with medical necessities in need of transportation can contact the school's administrators to see if they qualify. New Brunswick Public Schools said that the parents were notified about the changes. Quote, the letter we sent to every parent at the middle school at the end of July and the first week of August, said Business Administrator Richard Jerome, shortly before being interrupted by a parent saying that they did not receive any mail notifying them. I am sure that that letter was mailed to every student, responded Jenner, but when New Brunswick Today asked the parents present at the meeting if they were notified, they say they were not. Now parents are left struggling to get their children to school. New Brunswick Today reached out to Mr. Generone for a copy of the notification letter, but has not responded to our Open Public Records Act (OPRA) requested. The debate loomed large when issues for safety concerns while getting students to school were brought up. Students from ages 10 to 14 are being affected by this transportation change since they are now walking more than a mile on some potentially dangerous streets during their daily walk to and from school. With winter approaching, it has also become a great concern for students and parents that will have to walk under inclement weather, facing risk of getting wet or even injured while doing so. Just this month alone, 3 cyclists were struck while riding their bikes. One of those crashing is happening on the corner of the Paul Robinson Community School for the Arts. According to the police records, the cyclist was proceeded to cross Van Dyke Avenue when he collided with a Mercy transportation bus driven by Mr. Lourdes Peralta. The cyclist was transported to Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital for treatment. Another incident occurred on September 15, shortly before 9 a.m. at the intersection of Joyce Kilmer Avenue and Dawson Street. 2 streets away from the Roosevelt Elementary School, where the two persons were struck by a vehicle that was making a left turn into Joyce Kilmer. On the police report, we can see that what appears to be a young child with a female. It's unknown their condition or if those victims were transported to a hospital. Owners of private transportation businesses are likely benefiting from these changes. One such example is the family of current New Brunswick Public Schools board member Patricia Barella, whose family runs an alleged unlicensed transportation business that transports MBPS students. During the board meeting, emotions ran high with the response from board members to the concerns of the community. 12-year-old New Brunswick Public School student Nick Nove, who wanted to express concerns about how he must now walk over a mile to get to his New Brunswick Middle School, was initially denied the opportunity to confront the board. However, when community members responded in outrage over this, the board finally conceded. Similarly, board members Ms. Seawood told a New Brunswick Today reporter to sit your ass down following questions regarding its recent lead testing. Quote, "I do not know what the hell he's talking about," Ms. Seawood said in reference to this reporter earlier in the meeting. Interestingly enough, the comments were made following when Ms. Seawood gave a speech about having dignity, honor, and respect for those speaking. Many parents and children present were shocked by the statements Ms. Seawood made. The New Brunswick Public School Board has history of confronting anyone that addresses them on their issues, typically getting very angry and, as witnessed, very disrespectful. Como hemos reportado en septiembre, más de miles de estudiantes atendiendo las escuelas públicas de New Brunswick han sido dejados sin transportación después de que la Junta Educativa de New Brunswick removiera lo que se llama el transporte de cortesía que proveía a los estudiantes. Ahora, este año se espera que estos estudiantes estén caminando por climas malos y con el invierno aproximándose, pone a miembros comunitarios en preguntas de cómo van a llevar a sus hijos a la escuela. El martes, septiembre 22, la Junta Educativa fue hecha en la New Brunswick High School. La reunión fue atendida por docenas de padres iguales que estudiantes y miembros comunitarios que están preocupados por las escuelas públicas de New Brunswick. El problema de transportación fue traído a la Junta con más de otros problemas que tiene el distrito. Por muchos años, las escuelas públicas de New Brunswick proveyeron buses de cortesías a los estudiantes que vivían menos de 2 millas de sus escuelas designadas elementarias o middle schools. Pero este año, NBPS, las escuelas públicas, dijo que tenían que balancear su dinero. Tenían que proveer 500 estudiantes de la escuela Paul Robinson transportación a un espacio remoto. En ese resultado, el bus de cortesía fue removido a 200 estudiantes que lo necesitaban. Solo los estudiantes viviendo más de 2 millas de su escuela serán proveídos el transporte, a igual que los estudiantes que atienden programas después de las escuelas. El distrito escolar también dijo que cualquier persona con necesidades médicas pueden contactar a los administradores para ver si califican para el transporte. Las escuelas públicas de New Brunswick también dijeron que los padres fueron notificados de esos cambios, diciendo las cartas fueron enviadas a los padres de la middle school al fines de julio y a la primera semana de agosto, dijo la persona de negocios, el administrador Richard Janarone, solo después de ser interrumpido por un padre diciendo que ellos no recibieron ni una notificación avisándoles. Yo estoy seguro que esas letras fueron enviadas a cada estudiante, respondió Janarone, pero cuando New Brunswick Today le preguntó a los padres presentes en la reunión si fueron notificados de esto, ellos dijeron que no fueron. Ahora los padres fueron dejados batallando con conseguir transporte para y de las escuelas de sus hijos. New Brunswick Today contactó a Janarone para una copia de la notificación que presuntamente fue enviada a los padres, pero no nos ha respondido a nuestra solicitud. El debate conmovió a varios miembros de la comunidad cuando uno de los problemas fue traído por un niño de estudiantes de 10 a 14 años están siendo afectados por estos nuevos cambios. Ahora que tienen que caminar más de 1 milla y en unas calles que son muy peligrosas. Con el invierno aproximándose, se ha hecho un gran problema para los padres y miembros comunitarios que tendrán que caminar bajo estos climas, pasando que podrán ser lastimados o incluso, como hemos visto, este mes, 3 ciclistas, en el mes de septiembre, 3 ciclistas fueron atropellados mientras manejaban sus bicicletas. Uno de esos choques ocurrió en la esquina de la escuela Paul Robinson Community School 40 Arts. Según el reporte policial, el ciclista procedió a cruzar Van Dyke Avenue cuando chocó con una transportación de Mensing. Ese conductor, manejado por Loravis, que el ciclista fue transportado a un hospital local, Robert Johnson, para tratamiento. Otro incidente ocurrió en septiembre 15, corto después de las 9 a.m., a la intersección de Joyce Kilmer Avenue y 1000th Street. 2 calles cerca de la escuela Roosevelt, donde tienen niños de la escuela elementaria. Las personas fueron atropelladas por un vehículo que trataba de meterse a la línea izquierda en Joyce Kilmer. Según el reporte inicial, donde aparece ser un niño chiquito y un adulto femenino. No es claro si el conductor o las víctimas y las personas que estuvieron involucradas fueron transportados al hospital o sufrieron algunas heridas. Dueños de compañías de transportaciones privadas posiblemente están beneficiando de estos nuevos cambios. Uno, por ejemplo, es una de las miembros de la Junta Educativa, Patricia Varela, que su familia maneja un negocio de transportación sin licencia, supuestamente, a estudiantes de las escuelas públicas de New Brunswick. Durante la Junta Educativa, las emociones corrieron altas con las preguntas de los miembros comunitarios. Estudiante de 12 años, Nick Nove, que atiende las escuelas de New Brunswick, fue negado a hablar y confrontar la Junta Educativa sobre cómo él tiene que caminar aproximadamente media milla para llegar a su escuela middle school en Joyce Kilmer y Livingston. Pero cuando la comunidad reaccionó gritándole a la Junta, y la Junta después le concedió al niño que hablara. Similarmente, la presidenta de la Junta dijo, Emerald Seawood dijo a New Brunswick Today, a uno de nuestros reporteros, que sentara su trasero después de que hiciera unas preguntas relacionadas con la contaminación de lead en las aguas. Dijo, yo no sé de qué demonios está hablando, dijo Messiguard, en referencia con el reportero temprano en la reunión. Interesantemente, estos comentarios fueron hechos durante la reunión cuando Messiguard dio una conferencia diciendo dignidad, honor y respeto para esos que hablan. Varios padres presentes con sus niños estuvieron sorprendidos por las acusaciones y las palabras que dijo Messiguard durante la reunión de la educación. El distrito escolar tiene un historial de confrontar a cualquier persona que los confronte a ellos sobre sus problemas que tienen sus escuelas, normalmente poniéndose muy enojados y, como visto, muy desrespetuosos.
All right, Carlos, thank you so much for that excellent bilingual report, and thank you for your great work on this story. This is a story that not a lot of people would know about if not for your work, and I think your article probably had something to do with all those parents coming out to the board meeting. But first, I just want to ask you, how'd you get involved in being a reporter? You're in high school. You're a very impressive young man, but what made you want to come work for New Brunswick Today?
Well, I saw many things going on in the city that many people weren't hearing about, such as events, traffic, and other stuff that many community members just don't know or don't have access on how to find this sort of news. So that's where I got involved.
Well, you're off to an amazing start, my friend. You're really going to be going places. And I wanted to talk to you about what your reaction was to the Board of Education meeting. You have been to one other meeting before. This was, I guess, your second time at the Board of Ed?
Yeah.
Well, tell me, what did you think of it? Did you think that the parents have a good point?
Yeah, I think parents have a good point because now they're struggling to get transportation for their kids.
Yeah, and so 2 miles, that means that, like, if in theory you lived right here in downtown, you'd have to walk all the way to the middle school. So that's a far way to walk, especially if you're talking about a snowy day or, once it gets pretty cold or rainy. Tell me, what, you talk to students, you talk to parents, how is this change affecting them? What types of impacts is it having?
Well, students, like, for example, the other day it was raining. Some students said they gotten wet and are getting tired of having to walk, even carrying their book bags, binders, and their stuff that they're carrying inside their book bag. They're heavy, having to walk over more than 30 minutes, sometimes even more. It's a struggle for them to have to walk to and from school daily.
Right, and so it's also an economic issue for some folks. Like, I think something that might be lost in the conversation is a lot of parents are not eligible to get driver's licenses. So that means that they don't have the option of driving their child to school. Are students ending up in private transportation, taking private transportation to school? Is that going on?
Yeah, I've seen personally some parents dropping off their kids at like a family member's home or a friend's house for them to take them to school.
But also like paid transportation, like taxis. Have you seen that?
Oh yes, always.
Really? So
yeah.
Kids in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are taking taxis to and from school because of this change?
Yeah, not just the middle and high school students, but also elementary kids that are small.
Right. Yeah, I think some of them might be affected too. I know the middle school is the one that really, for a long time, students had gotten used to being able to have this transportation. But tell me about your thoughts on the budget. This was something that the district said would cost between like $300,000 and $400,000. Do you think that the district could, if they wanted to, restore this? Could they afford that? Could they find the money somewhere?
Oh, of course. I'm pretty sure they can find somewhere in their budget money to provide students with courtesy busing, as they did.
Right, and I think the really interesting thing in your report is that there was another change that happened this summer is the Paul Robeson School is closed, and so now the students need buses to get to this school, as you said, a remote school. It's out in the industrial area of town, and so all 500 kids at the Paul Robeson School now need a bus, where before that most of them probably could just walk to school because it was close. So basically that money, the funding for that is where they took the middle school money, right? I mean, that's basically the same amount, 400 kids versus 500 kids.
Yep, it's taking away busing to provide to other students.
Okay, and tell me, how has the district dealt with you? Because you, they're probably, I don't know, tell me, call me crazy, they're probably not thrilled that there's another reporter starting to ask them questions and file OPA requests. Have they treated you with respect? Have they gotten back to your questions?
No, they have not, but they better expect me to be at every board meeting they're hosting now.
Right on. Okay, well, thank you so much for your excellent work on this.
Thank you.
We're going to have an article out about that very soon, and we've also got another board meeting coming up a week from today, next Tuesday. So I encourage everybody in the community to come out there. Tomorrow is the City Council meeting. That's at 6:30 p.m. in City Hall. The agenda is available on the city website, and we'll have some stuff on our show tomorrow for you to prepare you for some of the stuff on that agenda. And also a very special guest tomorrow. We are going to have the Republican candidate for Congress in this district, Brent Sonic Schmelz, will be joining us right where you are tomorrow, Carlos. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video. Please check out the New Brunswick Today website. Support the excellent work that our young reporters are doing, and keep watching the New Brunswick Today show. We'll see you tomorrow. Once again, thanks to everybody on the team here, and thanks to you, Carlos. Keep up the great work.
All right, thank you.